With me, I have today my team. So we have Peter Ingram today, who's the head of international office. Peter will say a small hello to everyone in a while. I have Bethany, who is the international agent liaison officer. Again, I know most of you would have already been in touch with her several times. She's obviously the main point of contact for everything related to agents and their queries. I also have Anita Nathan. She is my colleague based in Chennai, and she joined us a few months ago. She has already started working with a lot of your colleagues in your offices, especially in South India. And I'm Wilma Paul, the South Asia Regional Manager for the University of Plymouth. I would now like to invite Peter to say a few words.
Thank you, Wilma, and good afternoon, everybody. Beth and I are in Plymouth. Clearly, Wilma, Anita, and yourselves are in India. I see with some jealousy that Wilma, Anita, and Bethany have far nicer backgrounds to their computer screens than I do, and that's because I've got an old computer. Now, hopefully, one day I'll have one as good as theirs, and I'll be able to look on message as they are. And looking out from my window, it is exactly like that. Clear blue skies, it always is sunny in Plymouth. I think the next time, maybe not the next time, that's too ambitious, but shortly we'll be able to do these in person, because it's important for us at the university to meet our representatives face to face. Though I have to say, we've done a number of these events over the past 2 years, and they have proven to be successful. And in fact, you've proven to be very successful as our representatives over the past 2 years. I'm aware certainly that there are challenges with some other countries, which the UK has been more accommodating for international students, but all the same, we have seen approximately a trebling of enrolments from India over the past 2 years. And that clearly is as much down to you as it is down to us. So I'd like to use this opportunity for those who have introduced students to us to thank you for that. We have learned a lot over these past 2 years and how to operate remotely and how to deal with volume remotely, because one of the challenges we now face is in managing our application pipeline to ensure that the best qualified and prepared applicants receive our best attention. And frankly, it's often those applicants which are mediated through good quality agencies which are best prepared for our attention. So I think one of the takeaways that I'd like you to take from this is that time invested in preparing an application and submitting it will always have a benefit in getting a good response from the university and a fast turnaround of that application. A lot of the work that Wilma and Anita do is in aiding that process. Sometimes there will be additional requests for information, and remember that we're all available here to answer your questions if you have queries about the suitability of people for Plymouth, but we do very much rely on your skill, judgment and expertise to prepare students for us. And hopefully what you'll be reminded of today, particularly for new staff, and we're very aware it's very hard to induct new staff into businesses when the businesses are operating remotely. Anita's done a fabulous job because she's never met us. She's not been to the university. I think even travel between Mumbai and Chennai is disrupted as often as it's available. So we've all had to adapt to this. But clearly the relationships that you have with your applicants and your colleagues has been harder, not being able to induct them fully. So when travel is available again, we do look forward to re-establishing the personal touch and to meet you all in person. But these events are a decent substitute, if an imperfect substitute for that, and I hope you find today's session helpful. At this point, I'd like to hand over to Wilma and Anita to take you through this, and I'll stay for the rest of the webinar, and if there are questions at the end that perhaps I can help answer with, I'll be happy to do so. So Wilma, Anita, over to you.
Thank you, Peter. Okay, moving on to our introductions. So Plymouth, as a city, is located in the southwest of England. It's undeniably one of the most best looking scenic locations I've been to in the UK. We're roughly 3 to 3.5 hours from London. The best way to travel to Plymouth for students, parents, and anyone really is to fly into Heathrow and either take a bus or a train to Plymouth. It is not a remote location. It's not a small town. It is a very busy city, thanks to the university and the students and staff that make up the population of the university and the city itself. It's mid-sized, so it's not extremely large and crowded. Like the other bigger cities in the UK. And it's safe to say that students don't really find themselves lost in a big city, if you know what that feels like. So it also records one of the lowest costs of living in the UK. Now, for international students, this is extremely important because as counselors and agents yourself, while counseling a student, I'm sure you are asked this question by both students and parents about what the cost of living is. And we've always had a lower cost of living, again, compared to the bigger cities. The university itself, the main campus, is roughly 10 to 12 minutes walking distance from the seafront. If you can see this picture over here, you can see the pink color portion is the campus and the purple colored portion is the city center. And we've kind of highlighted all the important buildings out there. On a day-to-day basis, students don't have to spend any money trying to get to class because they all walk to their classrooms or lecture halls or labs. So there is zero cost for travel and zero time wasted to get to class. So this is an extremely important beneficial factor about studying at the University of Plymouth. Climate-wise, Plymouth has mild weather when you compare it to British weather, obviously. Sometimes you do get to see 4 seasons in a day. But over the years, from student experience and from all the stories that I've heard, I don't think climate has ever been one of the factors that have negatively affected a student, whether it's health or whether it's just a day-to-day lifestyle. Plymouth is also fondly called Britain's Ocean City. You would have seen this on a lot of our promotional material online and in our brochures as well. And I think we kind of live up to that phrase. And once some of you visit, I think you will know what we mean by that. And the university is a city center campus. Now, as you know, from having worked with other universities, a lot of campuses in the UK are spread out, and some of them are also outside the main city areas. Now, obviously, again, going back to what I said about time taken and the money spent to get to class, this is where I think this is another benefit that we have, that everything from your accommodation to the main buildings on campus are all in one place. So we have, and it's also right in the center of the city. It's barely a stone's throw, from the main campus to get to the main city center. From this picture, you will also see that the railway station is right behind campus. And so is the coach station, the bus station. So if students take the bus from Heathrow, they can sort of get off and go to their accommodation, which is extremely close by. So it really does benefit to study at a university where everything is within a 10 to 15 minute walking distance. And of course, the other locations are a little further away from the city, but students on a daily basis don't find themselves, having to go that far. This is a very important link. It's our virtual guide. I will send this to you later so you can use it when you are counseling your students. This is just a bird's eye view of some of the buildings. The bottom part of the picture is parts of our campus. You can see one of our most prominent buildings, the Roland Levinsky building there. It houses all of our art and architecture and design lectures, and you can see the seafront. So this obviously goes to say what I was saying before as well, that everything is literally within walking distance. You can see some of the new accommodation buildings. They're all private housing, but they're extremely state of the art. So students often find themselves booking private housing also, especially our mature students, the master students. Undergraduate students usually prefer to live right in the center of campus. So they all choose the halls of residence. So please make sure you use this link when you are speaking to students. You can choose everything from the campus buildings to facilities, and it will actually give you a 360 view of the place, especially in times like this when we cannot travel. This is an amazing link to use to show the student what the city and what the university actually looks like, instead of staring at a brochure or just looking at website pictures. Okay, moving over to some important numbers in terms of ranking and where we stand on the league tables. I take great joy in saying now that the University of Plymouth is finally a top 50 university as for the Times Higher Education rankings. And it just goes to say that consistently, while moving up in the ladder, I think we've grown in our popularity, especially in South Asia, not just for the subjects that we teach, but also our international outlook, how we treat our students, and our research, especially. Over here, I'll just mention some of the rankings, and the rest I think you can read. 3 times we have won the Queen's Anniversary Prize for our contribution to education. This is particularly in the areas of marine and maritime. For those of you who've known us for a while now, you will know that Plymouth has always been a leading name globally, actually, in marine education, marine research, and in the maritime business as well. So I think owing to our location, we are a port city. So obviously, nevertheless, needless to say that we have very good courses and very good research in these particular areas, but we don't just teach, we go a step further in contributing to global subjects in these particular areas, whether it's sustainability or conservation, anything to do with climate change. Plymouth is always at the forefront, and we hope to receive more prizes in the future for these particular aspects. We're also ranked very highly for a few subjects. This is important, especially when you're talking to your students. Psychology has always been in the top. We're always in the top 10, 15 universities for psychology for our courses, right from undergraduate to postgraduate as well. Earth and marine sciences, again, is one of our strengths at the University of Plymouth. Like I said, it's the marine biology aspect of it, and is also the business aspect of it. So everything to do with shipping, logistics, maritime. Architecture and design is another area that we've always been known for. And if you go to selective course pages, you will see our course rankings also. Or you can just go to the subject rankings in the Times Higher Education League tables or the Guardian League table, and you will see where Plymouth stands. 5th safest in the UK. Now, over the years, again, owing to student experiences and feedback from students, I think Plymouth has always been a safe place for students to study and live. We always get asked these questions every year from parents, especially. And I think referring to what I said before about everything being so close by, I think students obviously feel safe, not only in the accommodation places that they live, but also, on a day-to-day basis. So luckily, we've never had any issues with international students, especially, and I hope we continue to see that in the future. So these are some of the rankings that we have. There are a lot more that I would like to share with you, and I've put some of them here as well. Over here, like I mentioned in the Times Higher Education, now we are ranked number 1 for marine in the impact rankings. The impact rankings are rankings that obviously test a university's contribution to sustainable goals in the world. So we're number 1 for marine. We're also listed in the top 50 universities, like I mentioned before. We've also been ranked in the top 25 universities for our reputation for world-leading research. I know we call ourselves a modern university, but we really have a history that goes back 100 years, and we're one of the few universities, modern university, that is very well known for its research as well. So if you have students who are willing to study PhD, research masters, MPhil, please send them to us for these particular topics. We're also featured in the top 300 for our international outlook. This obviously tests our ability to attract students from all over the world from different nationalities. And finally, we have a QS ranking also. I know students often refer to the QS league tables, if not the Times Higher Education league tables. And I'm happy to say that now we are finally ranked there as well in the top 50% of the universities. What do we teach at the University of Plymouth? We recently, not recently, but fairly recently, we had a restructuring of all our faculties in schools at the university, and now we kind of have three main faculties. The first one is Arts, Humanities, and Business, which has the Plymouth Business School, the Institute of Education, the School of Art and Architecture, and the School of Society and Culture. So all the degrees that are taught are all within these particular schools. Then obviously we have the Faculty of Science and Engineering, which has always been popular from an Indian perspective, which has the School of Biological and Marine Sciences, the School of Engineering, Computing and Mathematics, the School of Geography, Earth and Environmental Sciences. And then we have the Faculty of Health, which is now growing in prominence, especially where India is concerned, in terms of the kind of interest that we get from students for these courses. So we have the School of Psychology, the School of Biomedical Sciences, we have nursing and the School of Health Professions, where you can study courses like occupational therapy and physiotherapy, neurological rehabilitation, and so on, and the Peninsula Medical and Dental Schools. Admissions for these are a little different from the mainstream admissions, and we can tell you about them later. These are the subject areas now that are housed within the schools that I mentioned earlier. And we teach everything at the University of Plymouth, except for a few subjects, like physics and pharmacy and aerospace. I think categorically, these are 3 or 4 subject areas that we don't teach, but over and above that, we teach almost everything from architecture and design to biological sciences, to computing, engineering, hospitality, humanities, music, marine, obviously, mathematical sciences, and sociology, international relations, and politics. There are 2 ways actually that you can search for a particular course on the website. One is obviously by putting in the course name, but the other way is by going through subject areas. So that's how you know which school it belongs to and which faculty it kind of falls under. We also teach foundation programs. So we teach everything from a foundation degree to a master's and post that as well. But we also have a partner college, the University of Plymouth International College, that teaches a lot of our foundation and year 1 integrated courses. This is an important slide from the academic entry requirements point of view. I have shared this with a number of you in something called the counseling pack. I will do so again for those of you who don't have it. For undergraduate, it's extremely straightforward and very simple. The minute you go to a course page, for example, BSc Business Management, and you see a UCAS tariff there, we've mentioned the equivalent here. So anytime you have a student who wants to apply for an undergraduate course, if the student has 65% and above in their 12th, irrespective of which board it is, please send in the application straight away, and then we will further advise whether or not they actually meet the course requirement. But if you're applying through UCAS, it's pretty straightforward. But if you're applying directly by using one of our application forms, and if you're not sure about the entry requirements, then you can either refer to this table or you can ask one of us. We don't tend to shift from this table. This is used by the admissions team as well. So we're not extremely flexible for undergraduate applications, but for postgraduate, we're fairly flexible. Over here, I've given you an example of what the equivalencies are. We usually classify degrees as BTech and non-BTech when it comes to science and engineering programs. But if you have students who have scored a basic upper second class, please feel free to just send in the application because they will more or less meet our requirement. A-level and IB requirements are also very clearly mentioned on the course pages. Again, we don't move away from those entry requirements. So this is a very good sheet to refer to, and I would suggest that you keep it with you when you are counseling students. Of course, there are other entry requirements over and above academics, but this is something that we all refer to in the international office as well as the admissions office. From this, you will see that our requirements are not extremely high. Um, we do, of course, welcome students who have extremely high grades, and they obviously get our scholarships. But for basic direct entry requirements, I think our entry requirements are pretty decent in terms of, our competitors as well. And except for students, obviously, who have probably some backlogs or who have a long gap in their education, most of the students who apply to us usually end up going with an offer. These are our English language requirements. For some states in India, IELTS or PTE or TOEFL is mandatory. And I think a lot of you are already aware of that. But for those of you who don't, I will make that clear now as well. We do offer IELTS waivers for national boards, so CBSE, IISc students who have a 70% and above in their 12th and who don't come from high risk states can get their English can get their IELTS waivers. But for the rest of them, these are our requirements. We have an undergraduate requirement and a postgraduate requirement. PTE is the same for both, for undergraduate and postgraduate. IELTS is usually the most preferred test, as you all may know as well. But if for some reason students can't give an IELTS due to lack of dates or something, then they can always use the PTE or TOEFL. IB requirements are also mentioned here, and they're very clear. Now, there are some courses which will ask for an IELTS on a mandatory basis. So whether it's an English language or literature course, whether it's biomedical sciences, most of our healthcare and health professions courses will ask for an English language test. And even if a student has CBSE, IC English, we will still ask for an English language test. So please make sure your students have that test or will give it when they're applying to us. If you have any questions regarding these English language requirements or the main entry requirements, please put them in the chat box and we will answer your questions. How to apply? This is very important. We still get a lot of questions about applications. It's been a while since we've moved the application process online for all our postgraduate courses, including health. So it's very easy to apply. All you need to do is go to a course page, click on apply now and create an account. You can do this on behalf of your students and you can share the password with them in case they have to upload a document. This is the easiest way because it feeds in directly into our system and then it generates a student reference number and you will get an email back. There is a provision for you to enter your agency name or code in the application form. If however, for some reason you forget to mention it there, you can always email one of us and give us the reference number and say that this is the application that we've submitted online. There is enough provision to upload documents. For some applications, for example, that require a portfolio, there is a provision to upload that as well. But for some reason, if a student's portfolio is exceeding the limit, no need to worry. You can email it to us directly and we will attach it to the application and then send it for processing. For undergraduate, UCAS is the best way to apply. But yes, we do have a separate application form which can be used. Please ask us for it if you don't have it. And you can use that to apply with supporting documents. We get a lot of questions for our School of Health Professions courses because their application process is a little different. Their form is online, so you have to digitally fill it, save it, and then send it. So in case you have students who want to apply to occupational therapy, physiotherapy, dietetics, just email us and we will send you the link and then you can apply through that. So that is our application process. If you have questions, I'll be happy to answer them later. These are our fees, which obviously have been changed. The undergraduate fees are £14,600. The postgraduate fees are £15,700. These are the non-science and engineering fees, and the science and engineering fees are £16,700, obviously to include any additional costs for labs and robotics especially. Students can pay fees either in full, or they can pay in installments as well. We usually ask for a £2,000 deposit before a CAS is issued, and then the balance can be paid after. The living expense, like I mentioned before, is comparatively lower than the bigger cities. It's 1,023 per month. So when students apply for their visa, they need to show that they have 9 months minimum. They can even show a year, minimum 9 months of living expense, plus whatever tuition fee is balanced, minus whatever scholarship they may have received, and minus the £2,000 deposit as well. We've put a small budgeting note over here. This is made by our international student advice team. Obviously, depending on a student's lifestyle, their weekly expenses change. But keeping in mind our student accommodation and the kind of price range that it has, this is usually what students end up spending on a weekly basis. So in case you want to advise students about that. Coming over to scholarships, these are our undergraduate scholarships. Both our undergraduate and postgraduate scholarships have a very similar structure. There is an automatic scholarship, which is of £2,000, which is given to any student who basically, and it's non-application, so you don't have to fill an application form. Usually when admissions is processing an application, and if they feel a student has a first class and above, they will automatically mention a £2,000 scholarship in their offer letter. The great news is that for undergraduate students, they can receive it on a recurring basis as well. So if their performance is 60% or above is achieved by a student, they can get 10% off in the next year. If they achieve a 70% and above, they get a 20% in the recurring year. So I think this makes a substantial difference to their fees on a year-to-year basis. An important point to note is that these scholarships are only for the business, engineering, computing, in these basic courses, and it's not usually for other courses. Then we have the 50% Academic Excellence Award. This is almost half their first year fee. This one is application based, and there is a deadline also. Students receive, if they meet the requirement, they get 50% straight off on their tuition fee in the first year, and then they obviously get a recurring scholarship in the next year. The deadline is usually the 30th of June every year, and students need a conditional offer before they apply for this particular scholarship. So they cannot apply for it if they do not have a conditional offer. So if you have students who are already meeting the requirement, please urge them to apply to us soon and get a conditional offer and then apply for the scholarship. So we have a similar structure for the postgraduate scholarships as well. Again, we have an automatic £2,000, and then we have the Academic Excellence Scholarship. But we also have a few more scholarships that I mentioned here. So this year, we're happy to collaborate with the British Council, obviously, and we have one great scholarship to offer. These are limited to a few courses, mostly in the marine sciences, and I will share that information with you. I have once before, but I will share it again. So this one particular scholarship is for an Indian student, obviously, who has a distinction and above. And we also have the School of Psychology scholarships, which are £4,000, and then of course we have the alumnus scholarship worth £2,000. So we have more postgraduate scholarships compared to the undergraduate ones, but a lot of students who achieve a first class and above will definitely get a scholarship, if not the Academic Excellence one, at least the £2,000 one. Where do our students live? So I already gave you a hint before that everybody lives usually very close to campus. So we have on-campus accommodation, they're called halls of residence. And usually the undergraduate students tend to prefer to live on campus. So do students who've probably never traveled internationally before. It gives them a sense of security and belonging, when they're right in the center or on campus. They're known as halls of residence. The average cost is £100 to £165 per week, depending again on which one they choose. They're mostly single occupancy rooms. Some of them are studio apartments, and obviously they are either on or close to campus. They tend to be a little more expensive than the off-campus accommodation choices simply because you're paying for everything. Whereas if you live off campus with other students, you tend to share the costs, and that's how it becomes a little more cost effective to live off campus. Off campus, we have a lot of choices. I always encourage students to apply early so that they get good accommodation. Places to live that are close to a supermarket, so on and so forth. Obviously, you need an offer letter to then log in and apply and pick your accommodation. Yeah, so these are our accommodation choices for international students. This is what the on-campus halls of residence rooms look like, and these are all different. These are from 6 different halls of residence. And we have everything mentioned online, including the price list and comparisons. So not enough students actually go through all that information, but I urge you to encourage them to please go through all of that before they apply. This is an important slide. It talks about our student support. Universities often get ranked for the kind of support they give international students. But more than anything, I think it offers you a view into what we're actually doing for your students when they come on to campus. There are 3 aspects. The first one is international student advice. This team, obviously, from the name, it says it's over and above our international office and my team. They are the team that actually speaks to students a lot from the time they have an unconditional offer. We call them ISA. So ISA usually are in charge of everything from orientation to advice about living in the UK. Usually they're the first people that students often meet when they come to campus. They also advise students about visas, budgeting, what are the rules and regulations that they have to follow before traveling to the UK. They're often a part of our pre-departure sessions as well, and they're also the ones who organize trips and events. So ISA is their email address is often shared with students just before they travel to the UK if they have any questions about how to get to Plymouth and so on and so forth. So they're a very, very important team, and we work very closely with them. Then we have the Learning Gateway. This is a more personalized approach to the support that we give for students, and it could range from anything. It could range from an academic issue to a personal issue. They have everything from learning development and support, disability support, mental health, faith and spiritual support, and just basic things like staying safe, especially for students who've never traveled to a foreign country. They also have academic drop-in sessions, for example, like Sum Up. This is a mathematics drop-in session. And they also have something interesting called PALS. PALS is nothing but a group of students basically who are there to offer advice to new students. So current students offering advice to new students as they come to campus. And then the third aspect is careers. We now have a dedicated page on the website with a very impressive toolkit for students to use, especially if they want information about part-time jobs, placements, jobs after their degree, what kind of jobs are available as per their subject. So a lot of information is given there. They're based in the Student Hub, and students can go and meet with them. Again, not enough students go and meet them in the first few weeks. They should, because often it becomes too late, especially for master's students who wait for their first semester to get over and then pop into career services. So please encourage them to go and meet with them, leave their details, sign up on different boards for vacancies for part-time work and so on and so forth. They're also in charge of all our networking events and fairs. Very often we have a university-based wide career fair, but we also have a lot of faculty-specific events also throughout the year, which are based on career services and career support. So please encourage students to make use of all these support services that we have for international students. Work placements. I'm wondering if I could invite Peter to say a few words about placements, especially about about the employability skills that usually students need to have and the ones that we offer in terms of support. I've added 2 slides, Peter. If you could just mention a bit about what students can do and how we can help them. I think everybody is aware that we have the 3rd year as a placement year for most of our bachelor's courses. It's optional. It's not compulsory, but most students would like to take up placements, and they're all paid projects. And again, they can use the tool called My Career on the Career Services page, which will help them sign up for these particular services.
For sure. And this is a service which has been developed for all students, so primarily domestic students, but it is available, of course, to international students as well, and reflects the desire by students to try to apply what they've been learning in their studies to the work environment to determine the direction their career might take them. So very often people at placements will find a future employer for when they complete. In some cases, it might be that they don't, that they think, well, actually, no, that isn't for me, I want to go to somewhere else. But the services exist to identify placement opportunities for students, which are then you're helped to apply for these places and go through the application and the interview and selection process. But it's a bit broader than that, because as well as the placement year, which is explicitly and specifically working for a company, employability and the skills associated with it is a theme that runs through all of the academic programs in all faculties in all disciplines. Now, in some, it's obvious. So like medicine, for example, health programs, you're basically being trained for a career, you're trained for a job. Engineering, pretty much the same, but a bit less so. There's lots of practical applications to it. But even in the humanities and the social sciences, there is an acknowledgement that people will want a career at the end of it, and what they learn at university, it must be clear to students about how their academic study can relate to work opportunities. Over the last couple of years, and it's been unfortunate in the timing with the pandemic, our careers service has increased the services it offers specifically to international students. So it'll be far better and more welcoming for international students now, because they've invested time and effort in understanding the particular needs of international students working both in the UK and overseas, either in home countries or in third countries. And the services that the Careers Office offers students persist after graduation, and people can always go back to ask advice at any point in their career of the careers services. Now, I won't read out what's on that slide, you can see it for yourselves, but the advice we give students, the most important thing they can do is to talk to the staff in these services, who will then be able to advise students on what options are available for them and to help them. As Wilma said, there are the web services, the online services, but there's no alternative, there's a better alternative than going talking to a person. A lot of students from India are on postgraduate programs, one-year master's programs, where the possibility for placement within the program is reduced because it's an intensive one-year course. But that doesn't mean that services are denied master's students. It's just that typically the placement opportunity will be after you've completed your studies. Now, under current UK government guidance, students who graduate from a UK degree in the UK can work in the UK for 2 years after graduation. And so our careers service will advise you again of where there are opportunities and vacancies, but there's also a lot of events. Typically, we'll see how this returns after the pandemic, where employers will come down onto campus and recruit directly from the student body. And they can be either general events, so there'll be hundreds of different employers from loads of different industries talking to students from all sorts of disciplines, or they might be specific to the program or the discipline that you're studying. So there might be people from, say, engineering companies or people from, say, geomatics companies coming down to recruit people specifically from programs which typically feed into those industries. So it's worth always checking a university account and seeing what is coming up, what is available. And of course, the answer to so many different ills and problems is to speak to personal tutors. The personal tutor system is designed to support students throughout their study and prepare them for their graduation and leaving and finding work afterwards. All of these services are available. As always, our advice is to seek it out and to ask for help or advice, and it'll be made available to you. Individual disciplines and subject areas also have special services which are run from within the schools and the faculties, and you'll find out more about those once you are enrolled on your program. Is that okay, Wilma?
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Peter. So if you have any more questions regarding placements, please direct them to me or Anita, and we will share some information with you. If you're looking for subject-specific guidance also, we can share that with you. Going to move on to the clubs and societies that we have. As mentioned in the previous slide, these also serve as an important tool to find part-time work. There are a number of clubs and societies that students can join. I think now that the rules are made a little lenient, I think students can go ahead and join as many clubs and societies as they can. It was not possible to before because of the pandemic. But whether it's sports, music, drama, theater, there's lots to do, especially for undergraduate students who are with us for a longer duration. I know master students kind of tend to focus only on studying and their projects because it's time sensitive, but a lot of them also tend to join our Indian Cultural Society, the Asian Society, and some other hobby related groups as well. I will now invite my colleague Beth to talk a little bit about compliance. This is becoming an increasingly important, I wouldn't say issue, but an important point for us to speak with all of you, especially since, as you know, Peter also mentioned that our applications are on the increase month after month. So these are just a few things to note. Over to you, Beth.
Thanks. Yeah, it was just to add in, just in support of our colleagues at the UKVI team, just that we just really wanted to emphasise that I think with the pandemic and with remote distance learning, maybe some of the lines are becoming a bit blurred. So it was just really to make sure that our agents are spreading the right information to students about, first of all, Plymouth's location, which Wilma obviously went through at the start of the slide anyway, and just reinforcing the necessity to be in Plymouth once they get to the UK. Obviously, for some courses at the moment, there's still a temporary provision in place, but this is very much a temporary provision for students that can't yet get here. But it was just to re-emphasise that make sure you're letting students know that once they arrive in the UK, that they need to be in Plymouth and that they need to be able to be in or near Plymouth in order to do their course and to meet the needs of their CAS. So yeah, we just don't want to be in a position where we're getting into issues later on down the line because maybe there's been some confusion. So it was just to sort of emphasize that, and then also just to reinforce, especially for any new staff that are attending, just to make sure you're up to date with UKVI guidance and all the visa information, and just really keep an eye out for any concerns, really. I think as long as applications are as complete and as full to the best of your knowledge, then we'll be happy. I think turnaround times are a lot more improved in terms of the applications team if things arrive to us in a complete state. So we put on the slide that we value very much quality over quantity. So just to be making sure that we trust you as agents to be doing your side so that the work is a lot quicker when it comes to our side. So yeah, we just wanted to thank everyone for the ongoing support on this, but just to obviously with matters of fraud or visa refusals. It's obviously a great concern for license. And yeah, so we just want to be working together to make sure we're all sort of doing the right things and making the right checks to make sure that we can get the best students and the right students to come and study with us. So yeah, if you've got any questions about this area or any things you're not so sure on, just please put it in the chat, or feel free to get in touch with us after this webinar, and we'll be happy to sort of support you further on this if any more information is needed.
Thanks, Beth. And I also wanted to add that I think most of you are aware, but we have started our own credibility interviews, especially for students arriving from high-risk states or for those who have a very long gap in their academic career. So we have begun these, and usually if it's taking really long for a CAS to arrive, this could be one of the reasons that a student has a credibility interview pending. And for those of you who would like us to conduct interviews for your students, please let us know, and we have a team that will do so. Okay. These are our agent resources. This also, I think Beth will talk about.
Yeah, that's fine. I can jump in on that. So yeah, myself and Joyce put together the agent newsletters. So we send these out. We try not to send them out too much to you. So they're usually every couple of months as a newsletter. And then we do updates in between. Sometimes of year there's more updates than others. But basically that's our main agent communication to yourselves. So we use that as a channel to give you information on new courses or new scholarships or any sort of good news stories that the university has got, any new accolades and things like that. And yeah, it's just basically a good source of information for up-to-date advice that you can pass on to students. And also if there's any changes to sort of immigration rules and things like that, we'll sort of make announcements through this source. So if anybody's not on our mailing list but would like to be, then just get in touch with the international office or with Wilma or Anita, and we can make sure you're onto the mailing list if you're not already. And then it was just to really signpost you as well to our agent toolkit page on the website. We've tried to sort of put together a bit more of a one-stop shop for the website. Some of the feedback was that it was maybe hard to navigate in terms of knowing where the pages were that were relevant to yourselves. So we've tried to do that for our agents by putting together some frequently asked questions. So yeah, I really would encourage you to sort of go on the website and have a little look, and obviously any feedback welcome, but it was just to sort of help you see some of the questions you might ask in terms of key selling points about the university, how to submit applications, international scholarships, things like that. So basically all the things that you frequently get asked on a day-to-day basis should hopefully be covered in these pages. So yeah, have a little look on there. And obviously if you ever require any further support in terms of content for websites or social channels, then just get in touch with us and we can see what we can do on that area. We obviously all contracted agents, we try and support you as best we can, and hopefully we'll be able to be back out on the road a bit more and see you all more face to face, as Peter was saying at the start. But yeah, in the meantime, that's how we communicate with you anyway.
Thanks, Beth. And finally, this is where you can find us. The University of Plymouth is pretty active on social media, I can say for sure. Right from Instagram to YouTube, we have separate channels that are student-specific, subject-specific. I know a lot of students prefer Facebook and Instagram, so please direct them to our university accounts. We even have our residence live teams on Facebook and Instagram, so they can chat with them if they have anything that they would like to ask. We also have a dedicated channel on Spotify. It's called a Student Life Podcast, so students can listen in, and this is updated regularly. So I think it's a pretty interesting factor. And these are some pictures from in and around the city. Plymouth really does have the best to offer in terms of landscape, in terms of city life, you know, a student-centric activities. So I will share these with you, and these are finally our contact details.
Well, I think that timing is pretty good, Wilma, isn't it? I mean, it's what, 4 minutes off. Outstanding. Well done.
So I think we've answered a few questions already.
In the Q&A and the chat, I think, yes, you're right.
Yeah, what is the turnaround time for offer letters? So I think Beth mentioned that for complete applications, it's quicker because all we need to do is issue an offer and have a checklist. But there are certain courses that have a longer turnaround time. So all the health related courses, architecture, because they require a portfolio and have an interview. So basically any course that has interview as a part of the selection process kind of takes a little longer to process, but we've now introduced deadlines for those courses as well to allow for us to process them in time. So you would have received that information. If not, you will receive it again in the newsletter.
And a lot of our health courses are very heavily oversubscribed. And so there'll be advice coming out to agents later on in the cycle about application procedures for 2023 entry. Some of our courses are already full for 2022. So we'd like everybody to have an equal opportunity to be considered for these oversubscribed courses. So sometime between now and the summer, we will be agreeing with the faculty and central admissions about how we will be considering applications for oversubscribed courses, and we'll let you know. What that will mean typically is that we will need to see applications in earlier than is typical for students from India. It's unfortunate that the application cycle in India is different from, say, countries in Southeast Asia, from which there's very high demand for health courses as well. But we will do what we can to help you prepare for that. It might mean a bit of additional promotion to target markets if you think those are courses your students will be interested in earlier in the cycle than normal. So we'll be talking about the autumn of this year rather than the spring of next year. But we'll come back to you with more information about that once we've agreed what the procedures are.
I see you've replied to the question about the visa refusals, but I was just going to add in, I think that was mentioned in our latest newsletter as well. Just the UKVI team have just said just to let the applications team know as soon as possible, basically as early as possible. If you've ever got sort of any non-standard situations or any students that you're not quite sure whether their background is going to be suitable, then just basically don't wait till halfway through the process to let. We've had a couple of cases recently, not with India, but with other countries, where a previous visa refusal has been told, but really late down the line, right before CAS issuing, and it just causes delays and problems at that stage. So the kind of general message, certainly from the UKVI team, is just be upfront, let us know as early as possible, and then we can advise from there. That's kind of the best message we can sort of get across in terms of previous visa refusals.
Are there any more questions? How many years gap is acceptable after passing out of class 12? So ideally, the time between standard 12 and applying for a degree should not exceed 3 to 5 years. 5 is again a limit, it's an over limit, but 2 to 3 years is usually acceptable, unless they have work experience and a genuine reason for not starting their degree early.
In which case, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your attention. We got to about 50 participants today, I think, which is pretty good. So thank you for that. And no doubt we'll be doing another one of these before the end of cycle, and we'll confirm that obviously with Wilma, Anita and colleagues. And we'll also be offering pre-departure and applicant events for your applicants, probably putting those in the diary from May time onwards. Does that sound about right, Wilma?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll be talking to you about that closer to the time. Thank you again.
Thank you, everyone. Please reach out to us if you need anything else.